Hello, football family. Welcome into Huddle It Up Films, Week 12. Ravens 7-4 now, headed to the City of Angels, Los Angeles, to face the 7-3 LA Chargers. Two teams in completely different moods this week. Ravens coming off a road loss at Pittsburgh, 18-16, just a gut wrenching, disappointing loss there. And the Chargers winning on Sunday Night Football against the Bengals, a team that they could have been battling with and still could be, I guess, for a wild card spot. So they are riding a high on a comeback victory, a walk-off by J.K. Dobbins, basically. We're going to talk about all that, but mostly we're going to keep it a preview show. We do have some things to touch on. And last week, my first week solo, I actually called Ashley to tell her this, and she decided to come on this week. So this week I have friends. I have Coach Yuri back, Ashley back. Ashley, were you proud of me for last week, and how are you doing? Not in that order.
Yeah, of course I was proud of you. I told you that, and I was happy for you. I'm happy that you changed your mindset about it, and I think you did great, but I'm happy to be here too.
Absolutely. Yuri, what's going on, Coach?
Doing good. Season did not end the way I wanted, but I have a new and refreshing perspective on coaching and where I like placing blame. And I've been more of a players centric, I would say, mindset. But after having a couple execution errors, I think I'm a little more middle ground.
So now you're just going to blame the coaches every time or the players every time? How does this sway your opinion on the NFL?
Just in the middle ground, situation by situation, and we'll go from there.
So I just wanted to ask you, I know you're a young man. Why weren't you playing? Because I see usually you put your muscles up on the desk. I know you're a young man starting a new life. Like, why weren't you playing here?
Well, we had a quarterback. So that was if I was going to play any position and use these old muscles, as you would say, it would be quarterback. But my legs are starting to tighten up a little bit. My hamstrings. I'm not out there. I can't run with some of these guys, But one thing I can do is there's a lot of football knowledge up here, and I can get people to learn very quickly. So that's
okay. So you're slow. You're slow. That's
yep.
What that was.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cosmonaut Project checking in. Did good too last week. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you and some others in the comments. Really stepped up to help me. Some talking points. I hope you guys get active again tonight because I know nobody wants to watch content after a loss. So I really appreciate everybody joining and everybody who will watch on replay. This matchup is really fascinating, especially when the Ravens have the ball. There's so many moving pieces on this Chargers defense. So I can't wait to get into that. First, very quickly though, Ashley, the Ravens' mood and after this loss, touch on how you feel the team. Overall, the mindset, anything else that you want to, what were you thinking after this game?
Honestly, not a lot. I feel like the Ravens lose in such we're used to the way they lose, and you're just left with this kind of empty feeling for the rest of the week because I don't think that there was anything that really could have happened that would have changed my mind about this team. Like, I don't know what it is about struggling against the Steelers that they always seem to do. And I could feel it in the game. Like, when you're watching this team, you know when they're going to lose. And I felt it very early on in that game. And I was just kind of settling in and knowing that, well, I know what these conversations are going to look like for the rest of the week. I know what we're going to look like moving on into the rest of the week. And these losses, I feel like we have the same season every season. Like, it's been this way for years now. I don't even know how many years it's been, but I feel like we are watching the same team every single year and nothing changes.
For sure. And to Ashley's point, right out the gate, first drive, Derrick Henry fumble. It's like, all right, here we go. We're just going to be another one of those games, dogfight. And it seems like every time we lose, we kind of get punched in the mouth pretty quickly. We hurt ourselves, and then we can never really get our footing. And it's been to Ashley's point, something we've struggled with is being able to get in that close quarters combat and really start swinging with teams. And it sucks. It is what it is. but I still believe in the pass offense that we have and the talent we have on the offensive side of the ball. And moving forward, I'm still positive.
I just hope that mentality doesn't seep into the team in the wrong way. It's obvious you can use this as motivation and be like, I'll be damned if we let this happen again. But it's hard as a Ravens fan, at least, and I'm betting the players feel it too, to not feel kind of like Ashley was feeling, especially those who have, not rookies or their first year with the team, because it just has been a common theme over the last 2 years. I mean, the one thing I want to point to, though, is the penalties. And this has been consistent all year. And, when you're playing the Bengals or you're playing a team that doesn't have a good defense, you can overcome those things. And the Ravens, going into last week, led the league in scoring. So, despite leading the lead in penalties, they were leading the league in scoring. Well, when you face a good defense like Pittsburgh, when you face a good defense even like Cleveland or Kansas City, those things catch up to you. You can't overcome first and 15, second and 20s, and move the ball. And, there are a lot of reasons you can point to lose that game. But for me, it's the penalties, the missed kicks. Obviously, we win the game if those things are different. The turnovers, I meant to say, but the penalties. Ashley, we have got to cut this out. We have got to clean this up. Like Patrick McCary's getting called for a lot of holdings. I think Stanley and Falele have their share of holding penalties as well. But like the holding penalties are killers because they're 10-yarders and they're taking away good, and they're erasing good play from McCary. Like he's playing really well down to down. But when you're having these penalties, you're killing the team, Ashley.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that really brings into question coaching for me. And I think a big problem is like, I've given enough grace throughout the first few weeks to Zach Orr where it's due. But at some point, 17-year veteran head coach John Harbaugh needs to step in and get a grasp on his guys. It's his team. I don't understand the excuses. I don't understand fans acting like Harbaugh is exempt from the criticism because I'm not even necessarily calling for his job in these instances. I'm just saying get your coordinators, get your players, get everybody on the same page because being the leaders in the most penalties in the entire NFL has to fall on coaching. Obviously, the players are undisciplined, but nothing is going to change if the guys they're reporting to don't say anything. Like, what are you doing in practice? What are you doing watching film? Like, I don't understand the disconnect this far into the season. Like I said, I was willing to give grace the first few weeks to Zach Orr. He's brand new in that defensive coordinator position. But at this point in the season, when he's having extra help from other guys who have been in this organization for years and years, I just don't understand where to go from here.
Yeah, Yuri, before you go, thank you, Attitude Pop 3. Like it. It's called being outcoached. John Harbaugh gets outcoached by Tomlin and Andy every year. Tomlin literally said he knows he's going to beat us because we don't play all 4 quarters and we're undisciplined. Unfortunately, Attitude Pop, you're right. That's all true, and it's coming to light this week in the national media, which is something that I feel like the national media has not said anything. It's been kind of like this Ravens Twitter thing, even from early in this season when we're doing well. We started 0-2. You can point to the bad challenges and things like that. Like this game in particular, I didn't have a problem with the coaching. Like I said, you can pick at coaching. Like Ashley, you're a baseball fan. You can pick at the manager's decisions every game. It's the penalties. It's the the constant not showing up for big games that we should win against the Steelers. I mean, we are the more talented team, but they outplay us, and people are starting to notice that, Yuri.
Yeah, and it's to what I equate to is that the sins of the troops fall on the commander all the time. And for the same mistakes, false starts here and deep into the season, illegal man downfield. And I know there's only so much you can do about it, especially with Lamar at quarterback, and he's definitely prone to hold the ball a little bit more. But it's very unexcusable, and in most cases, if the troops keep making the same mistake, the commander will most certainly get changed. And I'm not that is a mute point at this point because it is what it is. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating and you can even tell in their play they were saying a lot of all of them are anxiety and letting all this outside noise get to them. And 2-14, not in games Lamar's played, but since Lamar Jackson has been a Raven, 2-14 against the Steelers and Kansas City combined. It's tough. It's tough to beat the best. That being Kansas City, and the Steelers just have our number. To the commenter's point, they outcoach us. I always refer back to that close quarters combat. They'll bring us into their realm and hey, like go punch for punch with us. Take your 3 yards, 3 yard runs, 3 yard checkdowns, and take them all day. And if you aren't willing to do that, you're not going to beat them.
So I don't want to belabor this too much. We're trying to move on, and we got a long show and get into the Chargers, but we had to touch on that. I mean, I don't have a lot of positive graphics like usual this week. We just had to touch on that Steelers game. The other thing that I want to get to, a season long issue and something that's going to matter big time, is Justin Tucker and the misses. Now today I found it really interesting that he had just basically said he's going to change his aiming point, or had changed his aiming point, because all his misses were left. I have to be honest with you guys out there. Now, maybe you believe that, and maybe he's telling the truth. But I feel like if you miss 5 kicks left, eventually somewhere in there, you would change your aiming point because you're missing left in practice. You know what I mean? Like, it would seem to be such an easy fix that it would have been fixed already. So I'm not sure it's that simple. Now, that said, I just think that people may be going a little bit overboard on Tucker, as far as like we need to bring in a new kicker. Tucker washed. Look, Tucker's not what he was, but I still feel like he is a decent field goal kicker, somebody that when you need a big kick like the 54-yarder he kicked later in the game, that you can still count on it. We just got to bring our expectations down on Tucker. Ashley, do you believe what Tucker said? Do you think this is going to fix something if he just aims more right, changes his aiming point, or do you think he's still going to struggle? And any other thoughts on Tucker?
I think it's worth trying. Like, if you're going to try anything different, because clearly whatever process he has up until this point in the season isn't working very well for him. I don't remember the exact number. I know Yuri saw it, the tweet of just how many field goals and extra points he's missed since Jordan Stout took over and what that means for the special teams unit. But I don't know I wouldn't say it's entirely on that. I think age plays into it. I think having new people plays into it, but I really don't know what to say about Tucker. It kind of hurts to be a Ravens fan and see him, and he was a part of that Super Bowl team, the most recent Super Bowl team. So it's sad to see that he's kind of nearing the end of his career. I wouldn't call for a new kicker by any means. I don't think we're doing ourselves any favors if we're starting a new kicker at the midpoint in the season, especially with the playoffs on the line. I don't think it's that dire, but I do know that all the points that he missed this last week made an entire difference in the game. So something does have to change. So if he's going to try something different in his method this week, then I think it's worth trying.
Absolutely. And the guys, the kickers are on the street for a reason, Yuri. It's not like you're going to bring in some all pro. Like I put my money on Tucker, just improving. And, like I said, he's missed some long kicks. They're usually longer kicks. You just have to temper your expectations. And maybe if it's 4th down and 6 from, what would be a 54-yarder, maybe you just go for it. Maybe you just go for it instead of kicking the field goal and trusting Tucker in that situation. That's kind of how I'm feeling, buddy.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make. Is once you get to midfield, I think it's go time. You're in 4 downs. I wouldn't attempt many more 50-yarders unless you have to. Like, it's 3 seconds left, and you gotta make something. But I think it would be a little disingenuous of me to not think, hey, like, at least Stout probably has a good hold on it. Like, they have Sam Cook still in the building, and even though I will give John Harbaugh a lot of flack, I will at least give him some credit that he is a special teams head coach, and he at least has they have a lot of analytics working on that. So I just think it's a confidence thing, and it's an age thing. And I hope and hope and pray that he gets back to at least making a couple more of those longer kicks. But if not, you just got to adjust.
Got to adjust. And hey, our red zone percentage still up there. If it's not number one, it's still near the top of the league. Got to cash in. Keep scoring touchdowns. That's a big thing. This the offense is really dynamic. I'm not worried long term about it. Now the Chargers, though, look at the bottom of the screen. They're sitting at 7-3. They're on a 4-game win streak, averaging 28.5 points in those 4 games. So they've really tuned up the offense. First year coordinator Greg Roman, of course, somebody we know well. Look at the wins: Las Vegas, Carolina, Denver, New Orleans, Cleveland, Tennessee, Cincinnati. Their win last week actually looks like their best win. That Cincinnati Bengals team. Denver, of course, has a better record. Maybe you want to count that as their biggest win. And then, the teams that they faced over 500, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Arizona, all losses. So this is like kind of a find your level game to me, Ashley. Like the Ravens are much more like the Steelers, Chiefs, and Cardinals than they are the other teams that they have beaten.
I agree. I think the Ravens have a problem with playing down to their competition, and I would just implore them to not do that this week because when you look at these wins, this Chargers team, I'm not impressed. I'm not on the train like everybody else seems to be. I'm not impressed with winning over Carolina or, I mean, I guess we can't really say Cleveland because we didn't beat Cleveland, but you know what I'm saying is like I'm not impressed with these wins, and I just don't see the vision. I don't think this team, if they do make the playoffs, I don't think it's going to be a deep playoff run for the Chargers. It's very reminiscent. We should come into this game very confident that we know Greg Roman. We know the Greg Roman offense. We know what to expect, at least on the defensive side of the ball. I think the Chargers defense is probably the strongest part about this team. And as long as, like I said, as long as the Ravens don't play down to this competition, they have a very good chance to bounce back and win in this matchup.
Yeah, I'll probably be more in the middle ground. I'm definitely a little bit more of a believer than Ashley is in the Chargers. Schematically, they're running very similar to the 2023 Ravens. That
on defense.
On defense. They're running that quarter is too high, go back and forth between cover 2 and quarters. Look, and they're middle of the field, forcing everything in the middle of the field. Thankfully for the Ravens, we have a lot of playmakers in that regard towards the middle of the field. Henry, Zay, Bateman all can work over the middle of the field. And on their offense, I mean, Ladd McConkey, someone that I was very high on this past draft, playing very well. And Quentin Johnson, a lot of people counted him out, 6 touchdowns on 19 deep targets, which leads the league. So by no means are they, in terms of talent, I wouldn't say that they are so far behind the Ravens that the Ravens go out here and have their way. Now, the Ravens should have their way. I mean, the Greg Roman offense, to Ashley's point, they should know that in and out. But Justin Herbert's playing at a great level, so it's going to be tough.
Justin Herbert, by the way, we'll get to it later. Remind me to bring it up again. He has set the Chargers record, breaking his own record, by the way, of most pass attempts without an interception. It's like 200 and some, I think. His only interception of the year, was week 2 against Carolina. So, yeah, he's taking care of the ball really well. Let's bring up some of the matchups here because this is really interesting, and this side of the ball is where it gets real interesting. We take the banner off the bottom there so we can see. Okay, so this Chargers defense, as Yuri pointed out correctly, now I didn't see the numbers. Yuri has a lot of numbers, stats as far as where Derwin James has been playing. But they play this kind of really light defense. Derwin James is playing a lot like Kyle Hamilton. I watched the game and a half. Not once, Ashley, was he lined up at safety. Not once. He was lined up as the slot cornerback, and then what would happen, they would leave Deion Henley on the field, and they would put James at linebacker, at dime linebacker, to keep him in the box in passing downs against lighter formations, more receivers on the field. So Derwin James hasn't been deep at any point that I've seen. They're using him as an enforcer. You can see they have the pass rushers. Tuli Tuipulotu, I think he leads their team in sacks. We're going to scroll across the bottom. But yeah, Tuipulotu's turned himself into a nice pass rusher. We know about Joey Bosa. They also have Khalil Mack, who's injured. Mack did not practice last week. He only took 4 snaps in week 10. He wasn't out on their practice field today, so that's something to watch. Also, Cam Hart, their starting cornerback, The only guy really with size in that secondary was injured during the game. He's still in concussion protocol. But you can see Bud Dupree, ex Steeler, ex Titan, a guy that can rush the edge. And they bring in these cornerbacks. Ja'Seal Taylor is their slot cornerback. So you can see all the depth on defense at the top there and guys that they rotate in and out. Uh, Yuri, lead us off here, man. Derwin James and his usage. I wanted to get to you. You know, I saw you tweet out something, and I had already prepared the show notes, but I thought it was really good about how he was being used. And talk about this, like it's almost like the John Harbaugh, Michigan, with Mike McDonald type defensive philosophy here.
Yeah, absolutely. So to start off, to your point, they're playing very light. They lead the league in dime usage, so they're getting more defensive backs on the field. And the way they counteract with them being light on the back end is they put Derwin James up towards the line of scrimmage and have that heavy hitter, secure tackler type, so things don't get past that second level. And like I pointed out before, it makes a lot of sense because in quarters you go out there and you put some of the better athletes as those back end safeties, being able to, if have to, take players like slot receivers vertical. It's a very well-rounded defense, even though the opponents they play may not have been all that. They are most certainly taking advantage of what's been given to them, and Derwin James is playing at a great level, and it's going to be a tough matchup for whoever is in the slot.
So, Ashley, this Chargers defense, number one in points allowed. The only number that stuck out to me as far as them being vulnerable was their yards per carry allowed. So, teams are falling behind them. We'll see it right here. Their defense, first in points allowed. Total yards a game allowed, nice, 11th. That's good. Almost a top 10 unit. Pass yards a game allowed, solid, 11th. Pass yards attempt allowed, 5th. So again, they're very well-rounded team. Rush yards allowed, again, 11th. But check out yards per carry allowed, 4.7 yards per carry they're giving up. Bottom third of the league, 23rd. This is why I have Derrick Henry highlighted in this matchup, Ashley, because if they want to go light, that's fine. We can put receivers on the field, hand it to Derrick Henry, and make this team try to tackle because they're giving up a little bit in the run game.
Yeah, and I will say that the Sunday night matchup versus the Bengals was the first time that I had watched a Chargers game in its entirety this season. So I was a little surprised at how well the defense actually was because, again, when you look at the wins, nothing really strikes me or stands out to me because they're beating teams that they should be beating on paper. But when I watched them actually execute, I kind of had like a little bit of dread knowing that the Ravens were going to play them. But exactly what you're saying is how they are against the run game. The Ravens are very good with their run game. So I'm not entirely worried. I think that the Ravens still have a very good chance at coming out on top in this game. And I think that Henry will have a big game as well, like you said.
So, Ashley, I'm kicking it back to you on this. Derrick Henry, of course, like last week, and people complained about his lack of getting touches in the fourth quarter, but circumstantially, I understood that. Like, that wasn't a big problem to me. I wanted to see him get more touches in the first, second, third quarter. Like, when that game started getting ugly, started getting physical, Derrick Henry was mad for, fumbling first possession. You got guys scrapping, getting personal foul penalties. Like, my mind, was like, look, man, this is ugly. This is a dog fight. Let's give it to the big dog. And like we were rushing okay. We weren't getting stuffed. To just keep giving Henry the ball. I think penalties took us out of that a little bit. But for all that being said, Henry is tied for the league with Saquon Barkley in carries. They each have 197 rushing attempts. So it's not like we're not giving Henry the ball. He's leading the league in rushing attempts. Now, of course, Barkley has played one fewer game. We haven't had our bye. Reason I'm kicking it to you on this is, do you see Keaton Mitchell getting more involved? Because I feel like Justice Hill has his role as the third down back, the 2-minute back. That's his jam. That let him do that. Keaton Mitchell doesn't have a lot of experience pass protecting. He's undersized, but can you see Keaton Mitchell getting more early down work here against a team like the Chargers and trying to beat him more with speed?
I would love to see that. And I think that he might be kind of just like their holding him back just a little bit after coming off of his injury. Like, he's not getting as many touches as maybe some of the fans would like. So I can understand maybe that. I would love to see him get more involved because I loved the potential that I saw in him that we did last season. But I also don't think it's a bad idea to just run with Henry the entire time. Like you said, like, I would have loved to see more involvement last week because I think it would have made a difference. And I think it would have made a difference in Henry's mentality. I think it would have taken a lot of stress off of Lamar. I think the entire offense would have benefited more if Henry was involved more. So if you want to incorporate Mitchell and it just doesn't seem to be working out that much, I don't have a problem with you just going back to Henry because that's what's reliable. That's what's been working up until this point in the season. So I wouldn't be upset if I don't see him get as many touches as I would like, but I can understand why coaching may not want to involve Mitchell as much.
So Yuri, I want to ask you this question on the topic. This is a huge game, AFC game. Next week we have the Eagles and then the bye week. Is this the kind of game where you just want to wear out Henry and just be like, look, we need to go all in on this game. We cannot lose to a team that we're now suddenly battling in the wild card race. This is not the time for Keaton. We'll give Keaton his 2 or 3 touches, but we're not expanding his role at all. Maybe that's next week in Philly on a short week that we start resting Henry a little bit more. How do you feel about Keaton Mitchell and then just, the overall plan for this game, I guess?
I mean, to one is I think they line up in light boxes 82% of the time is what I saw earlier. So the yards per carry thing, that doesn't mean as much to me if they were more towards 60 or 50%. Just wanted to throw that out there. But a
light box with Henry is kind of what you want. You know what I mean?
It is. But I would like to see Keaton Mitchell more involved. It's just he adds that extra element. Hopefully, I mean, obviously he's still nursing the injury, but have him take a couple of motions. Have him instead of Zay being the motion guy, have Keaton Mitchell work a couple of motions. He can run a drag route. I don't think that's not in his arsenal. And yeah, I mean, this is the Ravens offense is death by 1,000 ways, and is as nice it is to have a running back like Henry who can turn it on at any time. I don't think this should be like a 20 carry game from him. In complete honesty, I think this should be like a really efficient 15 carry, 133 yard type game from Henry. I don't think this is the game where you feed him because the reality is that this offense has been predicated on the pass offense going out there and scoring a lot of points, and they're just gonna have to win that way this week, the following weeks. And it, like I said, Henry could absolutely go out there and have a 20 carry game, and I'll be wrong, but I don't think this is the game. I think in December, when it's cold, you're outside, there's a grass stadium, that's when you start really letting him get behind his pads.
Okay, so you're quite honestly, I just don't know. I kind of feel like if this is a team that wants to play 3 safeties all the time, Gilman, Molden, and James, and they want to play light, and I'm looking, I don't care why their yards per carry is the most glaring negative stat. Like, to me, I would just make them tackle Henry over and over again, and it is death by 1,000 cuts. But I feel like you're saying because you expect the Chargers to score a lot that we have to be explosive in the pass game. Is that what you're getting at?
Absolutely.
Ashley, where do you stand on this? Like, what would be your obviously the beauty of the Ravens offense, Ashley, is if we have to run it, they're giving us the run, we're doing great running. If they give us the pass, we've been doing great passing. They double Zay, we're going to Bateman, other like we do have the pick your poison type offense. But to me, like, my initial game plan would be to just pound away on these guys.
Yeah, I'm seeing more of a run-heavy game in this particular matchup. I just want them to stay consistent with whatever works because for whatever reason, this team tends to get rid of whatever plan is working for them when it's worked so well for maybe 2 scores, 3 scores, and then they just stop doing, whether that's the pass game, whether that's the rush game. I just want them to stay consistent to whatever's working to them and to not just change their game plan to being defensive if they get a lead, because that's my biggest problem. Is I don't like when I think the best example in the league currently is the Lions, is that they never show mercy to their opponents. Whatever works for them, and they don't just get rid of it and become defensive on offense. They will score every time they can, and I would like this team has all the potential in the world to be like that. We have a great pass game, we have a great rush game. I have a lot of confidence in Munkin leading this offense, and I think that they're capable of it. So whatever works for them in this matchup, which I'm leaning toward the run game, I hope that they just stick with it.
Well said. Whatever's working, stick with. Totally agreed. I think you're not going to find anybody to disagree with you with that. So Yuri, something and you scout these guys just like me, so but the size of this defense, the defensive backs for the Chargers, Cam Hart really is the only guy with size. Tarheeb Steele from Maryland is 6'1", so I don't want to discount him. But Christian Fulton 5'11", Jasir Taylor 5'10". Both of their safeties, Gilman and Molden, are 5'10". So it's not a lot of guys that are pushing 6 feet in there, and I feel like this could work to our advantage with guys like Likely, guys like Andrews, your guy Kolar, Nelson Aguilar's got some height, showed his catch radius. We're not seeing, obviously Devontae Walker in there, so we really can't count him. But it's a short secondary, and T. Higgins took advantage of that last week. Yuri, you can see his size showed up. Of course, Higgins is a different animal at 6'4", but Likely 6'4", Andrews 6'4". So maybe we can have some, a little more like better at the catch point. Some 50-50 balls go our way in this game.
Absolutely, and Jamar Chase as well. He may not be big in height, but he certainly plays a lot bigger than he is. It's unfortunate that we don't have that outside X that could go up and really take advantage of that. But we do have, to your point, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. And the Ravens should not stray away from using those tight ends in this game, whether it's in the run, against the pass. They got to go out there. They got to be aggressive, and they certainly have to just be bigger, be dominant, and be physical, because, that's Ravens football.
So, Ashley, somebody I have highlighted on the Chargers, I loved him coming out of college, Deion Henley, the linebacker, a great coverage player. They are not afraid to man him up on tight ends. Anybody that comes into his zone picks him up. I thought he was very savvy in the run game, very smart. Maybe not the most physical guy, but smart player. Probably one of the better coverage linebackers I've studied coming out of college. But the Ravens in their zones, off script plays, it's really, really easy with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson to exploit even the better coverage players over the middle. Of course, Lamar has been great over the middle since his rookie year. It was the first thing you could really count on him with, was like, wow, this guy has got great touch over the middle, putting footballs between level 2, level 3, nice touch off schedule. So Deion Henley, though, a guy that we have to keep an eye on. He wears number 0 as well at the middle linebacker against our tight ends. Should be an excellent matchup there.
Yeah, and I think that, not to take anything away from him, but I just think that if this is, one of our bigger threats on this defense, I think our offense is fully equipped to deal with that, because whether it's Likely, whether it's Andrews, I still like them in that matchup. I still like Lamar Jackson as a quarterback to take advantage of this and just to read a defense and know where he's at. And then also on the other side of it, I like Roquan Smith too. I think he's well equipped to deal with their offense. So again, not to take anything away from Henley necessarily, but I just think that our offense coming into this is a lot better and can deal with a player like him. I don't think this is anything new to any of these guys.
So Yuri, put it to you this way, especially when they go to dime and Derwin James is next to Henley, Perryman's out of the game. They bring in Jasir Taylor off the bench to play slot. They're the middle of the field. Like, how are you feeling? Where do you feel like this Chargers defense will be most vulnerable compared to the Ravens? We have a lot of size over the middle, but the Chargers are really strong in the middle. On the outside, where do you feel like if you had to, you're putting your bets on this game, which Ravens receivers Who do you like? Where do you don't like? Where do you think we're going to be able to take advantage here?
I would say probably those hole shots in between the safety and the corner. I don't think Still can hang with Bateman. I really don't. I think our receivers are very well geared for this game. Maybe even Deontay Johnson finally gets a couple of grabs. Henley can really carry the vertical. Like, he is a elite space athlete, very instinctive football player, and good IQ. So to be honest, I don't think the middle of the field, outside maybe of a couple Andrew, those classic Andrews. Hey, let's throw it up top and see if he comes down with the type of plays. But outside of that, I think the receivers, and honestly probably Justice Hill out of the backfield as he always has been. I think that's the way to work is conflict the middle of the field and work Justice Hill underneath.
I kind of like the idea, Ashley, of sending like a guy like Likely, for instance, who has the speed and the catch radius. Like, send him vertical out the slot to push those linebackers like Henley back to, like Yuri said, nobody can carry somebody downfield like Henley, and just open up the middle for crossers, mesh concepts with Zay, Bateman, Andrews, whoever else you got. So in other words, use your outside weapons over the middle, use your inside weapons to carry deep, and just push everybody back. That as Yuri said, that was the first thing I thought of, Ashley.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of this offense, and that's the beauty of having Todd Monken, especially over somebody like Greg Roman, is that I am fully capable that he knows the talent, he knows what all of these guys are capable of. And when you have a confident coordinator like that who can come up with creative plays, it inspires confidence in your quarterback. That's why Lamar is having such a great year. So I think really in any situation, I think this offense has one on this defense. Regardless of how good the Chargers defense looked on Sunday night, I'm still very confident in this Ravens offense, and I think it starts with Monken and it starts with all the talent on this team as well.
So, Yuri, their front four is a good front four. I don't think it's as good as what we saw from Pittsburgh just across the board when you count the defensive tackles. But Tuli Tuipulotu, Joey Bosa, obviously, Bud Dupree. We'll see if Khalil Mack can come back. That's a lot of, like, especially with Bosa and Mack, a lot of power on those edges. They own that edge. Matching up against Rosengarten, I thought that he did a pretty good job against T.J. Watt last week. But the pass rushers from the Chargers, they are fifth in the league in sacks. Their pressure numbers are down, but when they do get there, they get home. How are you feeling about the matchup between Rosengarten and Stanley in these edge rushers of the Chargers?
I feel pretty comfortable with Stanley. He's obviously come back to form and has played great football all year. I am worried about Rosengarten. I think we've highlighted a couple times on here. He has struggled against power. Players like Max Crosby, Bosa is certainly in that same build of long, tall, and strong. And I am a little hesitant. I think that the weakness is that Morgan Fox is a pure, almost pass rushing defensive tackle. Puna Ford can certainly play the run, but this is another game where if we are going to get Henry involved, and they want to stick out there in light personnel, it certainly should be those under center dives, zones. Trying to work that middle of the field, and talking about getting a big player like Henry out there against his linebackers who may not be as big. That would be my inkling is attack the middle.
And Ashley, as much as this team likes to play light, and I feel like already there's been a correlation between Pat Ricard and Henry and their usage during wins compared to not using Pat Ricard in losses, and of course Henry during losses. But to me, if they want to play light, maybe this is a Pat Ricard game. Maybe this is more Charlie Kolar and more Ricard chipping on Bosa. Just trying to, like Yuri said, move him up the middle. Morgan Fox, not a big defensive tackle. Aguania, he's still in his second year. Puna Ford, I'm impressed with him, by the way, Ashley. A big defensive tackle. They put a big guy at that 3 tech. So they're not. It's not like they're Matabike or your Aaron Donalds or you're trying to beat the guard with speed. Puna Ford's a big old man sitting there where he is across from Faalele. But sorry to get off track, Ashley. Like, I feel like if they're a light team and that's where they're comfortable, let's see how we look in heavy formations. Throw Ricard out there, let him push Bosa around, or let him lead in the hole. Try to get on Perryman, try to get on Henley, and push these guys around like we should have did probably last week to the Steelers.
Yeah, I think I never want to play scared. I want to trust these guys. If something doesn't work out, then Lamar is going to let them hear it. If something's not working with his line, if for whatever reason he doesn't have enough time, he'll let them know. So I want to give them credit where it's due because TJ Watt was held down. I expected a much worse game from him, actually. So I'm not too concerned with Joey Bosa, but I do think that if for whatever reason Lamar's not having enough time or for they're causing a lot of pressure, I think using Ricard make him worth the money that we paid him, and it kind of goes back to what I said on mostly to the scoring offense of, sticking to what's working. I think the same applies here is with your big guys like Ricard and your offensive line. Do what works for you. And I don't want to come out and do something if you don't think you need him, then great. But if it gets to a point where, like I said, Lamar has no time, he's getting hit a lot, then use Ricard. Put him out there. That's exactly why we paid him. That's why he's on this offense. Utilize him in the way that he should be utilized.
Love it, love it. So I want to switch sides of the ball right here, going with this Chargers offense and against this Ravens defense. Different story last week, Yuri, for this Ravens defense. Looked very Dean Pease-ish, top down. Kyle Hamilton in the back end. I saw a lot of people, well, was he playing free safety or was he playing strong safety? What I saw were they were playing sides. Kyle Hamilton was over there, the right of the defense, the left of the offense. Ardarius on the other side. And they still allowed Hamilton to creep up. They still allowed Washington to play more traditional strong safety in the box. So to me, it wasn't like whatever stat you look at, strong safety, free safety. That was just Zach Orr and the defense mixing it up. They liked Hamilton over there on Brandon Stevens' side, on Tre'Davious White's side. And I think that was the method for that madness, Yuri, is to have somebody with the range of Hamilton over there on the side that teams want to target, which is obviously Brandon Stevens.
Yeah, and earlier I saw on NFL Pro that Kyle Hamilton is yet to allow a touchdown on 362 coverage snaps. So playing great this year, and it makes sense. You put your best coverage player on unfortunately the weakness that has been Brandon Stevens. You put him on that side, and even though I know we're highlighting Hamilton, man, we got to do something about Brandon Stevens' snaps. I think Tre'Davious White, it may have been small sample, but those two plays he made on George Pickens were about as good as you can play for his size against someone like Pickens, who's certainly made a lot of highlights doing those type of things. And I mean, you the best defense is that you don't feel like you have a vulnerability, especially at an outside cornerback spot. That's where big plays come in. That's where we've seen big plays come in, and that's where you see Kyle Hamilton, even though he has certainly still been able to do that line of the scrimmage stuff. Not as much as he did last year, not as much as he did in his All-Pro season last year. So we got to free him up. In my opinion, I know this it is what it is at this point, and I think they're going to roll with Hamilton and Washington as their safeties. That's the best two they have in coverage. But it is unfortunate that the hand we've been dealt with the outside corner spot.
So Ashley, I really want to get your opinion on this. To me, it's a net positive having Hamilton back there. Like, yeah, we're losing, we're losing a lot of how we use him as a weapon in the blitzing. We still did some of that. We still saw Kyle storming the backfield and things like that. But to me, it's a net positive having him back there because what was killing us on defense was the safety play, in Marcus Williams' spot. Ardarius, an obvious upgrade over Eddie Jackson. So, yeah, like Marlon can do some of what Hamilton does. He's good in the box. You saw the forced fumble. Marlon's physical. So, trading Hamilton or Marlon in for Hamilton in the slot and putting Hamilton back there, to me, it's like a net positive, even though I would love to see Kyle used as a Swiss Army knife that we're used to.
Yeah, I don't think that it makes all the difference in the world because, like you said, I think Marlon Humphrey is playing very good football. He surpassed my expectations of this season of what I expected him to perform as. I think they're both really vital pieces to this defense, and I think a lot of players are playing good individual football, but for whatever reason, it's not translating as a whole unit. And I think the biggest thing is just Brandon Stevens. I think we need to acknowledge that. I think everyone needs to just get on board with it. And I think what bothers me is it seems like it's just politics is why he's out there. Like, I see no reason as to why. Like I said, I think a lot of these players are playing good individual football, but for whatever reason, it's not translating out. And Stevens, I feel like it starts with him. Like, I feel like we need to see more of White. I know we didn't see a whole lot, so I can't say that for a definite absolute that he's going to be so much better, leaps and bounds better than Stevens. But I think at this point in the season, with this many losses that shouldn't be losses, and that a lot of the losses have fallen on the defense, I think you need to try something different there.
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts on that. Thank you, Ashley, for touching on both points. By the way, I was going to come back to you, and you cut out the middleman. That was pretty nice. But I did a cut up on this week. This week on Tre'Davious White. Please check that out. Now, a lot of it is boring. The run plays, and he's not necessarily involved. But here's what I noticed. They were playing Brandon Stevens at dime back early in the game. So Trenton Simpson will come out early in the game when the other team went with a bunch of receivers. Tre'Davious White will play right cornerback, and Brandon Stevens actually made a play at dime backer, looked pretty good in there. What happened was Brandon Stevens got burnt in the third quarter, got burnt a couple of times. Starting fourth quarter, they took Brandon Stevens out. Tre'Davious White was the starting right cornerback. So, what I saw from Trey White, and I know that maybe his better days, the injuries have hurt him and all, but he was really, really physical, and he had really, really good eyes. And I think I titled the video something about his eyes and his physicality. So they asked him to drop back in like a cover 3 look, and he was very, very comfortable backpedaling and coming up strong. I think route runners will give Trey White problem. Maybe if you put him one-on-one, ask him to play a lot of man against a route running receiver, that might give him problems. But against a guy like Quentin Johnson, a taller receiver, I feel like Trey White that's a good matchup for Trey White. And if it was me, I would just give him the start and turn it over to him and see what you have there. And Trey White, as long as he's got the defense down, maybe that's what's been slow rolling him into the lineup. But he played pretty much the whole fourth quarter. All of his action came late. It wasn't like he subbed in a few times throughout the game. It was, look, you're the dime cornerback. And then when Brandon Stevens got burnt, then all of a sudden he took Stevens' spot.
Yeah, no doubt. And to your point about Stevens playing dime backer with Roquan Smith potentially being out in this game, that may be the best coverage scheme we can put out there is having Stevens, who has played safety before, move into that dime backer spot. And hey, play your zone, and then have Trey White, like you pointed out, go back to that outside corner spot, have him against Johnson. I think that's a really good matchup for him. I think Palmer's another one. Either or of those outside receivers, Trey White would certainly be able to match up with them.
Same type of skill set.
Yeah, if they put Stevens out there, I'm telling you now, Quinn Johnson may not be a go up and get it receiver, but he will wait for the ball to reach his hands. And if Stevens does not get his head around, the ball will go into his hands because that's how good Justin Herbert's been placing it this year. So do not want to see him out there.
Yeah, Quentin Johnston famously, the catch point was his big thing coming out of college. But, if you're talking about like a cornerback who's really struggled just being nice here at the catch point is Brandon Stevens. So you would be negating a possible advantage by having Stevens out there. To me, it's a Trey White game. Trenton Simpson, obviously, just wanted to give an update on Roquan. He did not practice today. Neither did Travis Jones. But Travis Jones, has been battling this ankle injury. He came back in the game after he aggravated it. It looked like I think Matabike or something rolled up on him a little bit, chasing the play downfield. But Travis, I would expect him to play. Harbaugh on Monday with regards to Roquan Smith. No updates right now. We'll be monitoring it as it goes as we go here, and he'll be working to get ready for the game.
Yeah,
So
see you
I'm
next.
Ashley, that last sentence, he'll be working to get ready for the game. That kind of tells. That's why I put Roquan on the screen here. That kind of tells me that they expect him to gut it out and play through it. What do you think? Am I reading too much into it?
I
Be honest.
I never believe anything that John says, so I would just wait until the injury report the day of to know for sure because I feel like John sometimes talks like a politician and I feel like he might be playing on our emotions or just maybe saying what we want to hear and he might not even be lying necessarily. I don't think that's the case. I think maybe he does believe that he'll be ready for the game, but again, I wouldn't believe it until I see that his name is not on the injury report day of.
Understood. You're with her on that. I had something else for you.
Yeah, that first sentence told me all I needed to know. See you next week, Roquan.
Okay. All right. So yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me also, like because his brother's playing in this game, where he might want to play some head games, and
Yeah.
he knows Roquan's out this week, but he just wants to really stick it to his brother and have him prepare for Roquan and not prepare for the backups who they could exploit over the middle. Let's face it, like Roquan had what I thought was his best game of the season before he came out. He was looking physical. He was getting off of blocks, even on plays when he wasn't making the tackle. Roquan was playing like a man possessed against the Steelers, and it really perked my ears up because we've been waiting for that really all season, man, to just see that kind of like impact on the game. I want to bring my guy John up. This is a great one right here. If Roquan and our Travis are out, then that's why we should run it early and often, like 2019, to dominate the time of possession. John, you could be, that's the counterpoint to what Yuri was saying, where he thinks, excuse me, we should throw the ball a lot to score a lot of points. The other way to do that, Ashley, is to just grind out drives, cut down the number of possessions for each team, and take advantage of your possessions and put in points if we're hurting on defense.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it could go good for the Ravens both ways. Like I agree to this point of controlling the time. And I think that both Harbaughs are very you don't know what you're getting with them week to week with the time management. I feel like I've had a lot of questions around Jim and John and how they run the clock. So I can see this being an important way to play on offense, but I also see scoring a lot of points out front as well. But the main thing that I will harp on is just sticking to whatever works. Whatever you decide to do, whether that's pass heavy, whether that's run heavy, please stick to whatever is working.
So Yuri, I'm going to get back into the highlighted guys I have on the Chargers here. Will Disley over 300 yards. Now, I'm surprised. Our guy Hayden Hurst has been inactive 3 of the last 5 weeks. I think he was a healthy scratch last week. 24 total snaps for Hayden Hurst in the last 5 weeks. So he's been kind of like I was expecting to watch some Hayden Hurst. Was not in that game, and it wasn't just a it looks like it's more than just health. It looks like he's kind of phased out. But Will Disley is their guy. They have 3 receivers, I believe, with over 300 yards. It's going across the screen right now. Lab McConkey, 615 yards. That's 19th in the league, and 4 touchdowns. But Chargers have 3 other targets, including Will Disley, with 300 plus receiving yards. Talk about these targets. We talked a little bit about Johnson and Josh Palmer. What about Disley and McConkey? I have them highlighted because I feel like that's the 2 guys that you have to worry about in the passing game.
Yeah, that's the big staple of the Greg Roman offense is always those tight ends. He'll always get no matter what, he'll always get him involved. I was surprised to see Hayden Hurst not out there. I was actually in person and watched Will Disley drop a absolutely dime touchdown in the corner of the end zone. So my opinion's a little sour on him from that, but to your point, he has been productive, and he's not like the slow, sluggish like blocking tight end. Like he does have some very sneaky speed to him. But the player I think I'm going to spend a lot more emphasis on is Lad McConkey. To your point, 19th in the league in yards. He can work. He's working from the slot. He can work from Z. Great route runner, tough. He will make those hospital ball catches for you. Not that Justin Herbert throws a lot of those, but he'll make guys miss a lot. My comp for him out of the draft was Zay Flowers, and he is a lot like Zay Flowers in a sense, in the way he's able to be utilized around the field. And he's gonna give Humphrey some fits, no doubt. He's not weak. He's not a weak route runner. He's not weak off the stem, and he's not weak at the line of scrimmage either. He will be very physical. He may not be big, but he will be physical.
That's why I kind of compared him a little bit to Jerry Jeudy. That was my comp because he's 6 foot as well. Just a great route runner, has that strength, like Yuri says. But yeah, they have a McConkey in the wide receiver core. Ashley, what do you think about that?
I think it's just this is a very Greg Roman offense. And I think what was interesting, because like I said, this was the first game that me and my dad watched in the Chargers' entirety. And it was like Herbert's doing a lot with less than what his counterparts have, which I thought was very impressive. I thought it spoke a little bit more to Justin Herbert's abilities, and we're finally seeing more. He's not just a what if kind of guy anymore. Like, he's actually putting up good numbers. He's actually winning to back up his numbers this time around. And I think it's kind of like Lamar's early season is like, these are not big name guys, but when you look at the numbers and you look at where they're ranking in the league, I'm just impressed with what they've been able to do. I don't know how long that's going to last for them, and I don't know what longevity that has in the playoffs, but I've been impressed. I'll
So
say.
Yuri, something that stuck out to me about this Greg Roman offense is, I'm expecting them to dominate in the rush game. And I feel like they just don't have the talent at running back aside from J.K. Dobbins. Like, Dobbins' numbers are great. But you see a Greg Roman team averaging 4.2 yards a carry. Like, that doesn't add up to me. And I think that has a lot to do with their interior offensive line, to be honest with you, like the room that's created. But yeah, this Chargers rush game, and I think they're only averaging about 20 points a game, 22 points a game. It'll scroll down the bottom there, but it's not really an explosive offense. They're winning games on defense.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is that their fullback Matlock is about 280 snaps on the year. So hey, maybe you guys are right. Maybe it's a game where both teams just get big and nasty, and they say, hey, we're just gonna clash. We're gonna clash away at the run. And take whatever play action passes we can get off of it. But yeah, that interior is a lot more gated towards pass protecting. But Joe, I do want to highlight their tackles are stout. Those are both elite, all pro, whatever buzzwords you want to throw out there. Those are two very good offensive tackles. And J.K. Dobbins may not be as fast as he once was, but I could certainly see them working a little bit of stretch, a little bit of toss, and trying to work out with those physical blockers they have the wide receiver and take advantage of that. That's certainly something that I can notice.
Yeah, I mean, Ashley, happy for J.K. Dobbins. With everything he went through here in Baltimore, I don't blame the Ravens for moving on. I mean, if you would have went into another season with Dobbins as your starter, it would have been very, very scary, especially with Keaton Mitchell's injury to start the season. But he's still got that power, Ashley. He's still got that contact balance. He's still, tree trunks for legs. He doesn't have that top gear, but J.K. Dobbins is a tough tackle. You better hit him square and you better wrap up, or else you're going to bounce off of him.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important to note, too, that it was the best move for everyone. I think Dobbins is much better off here in this offense. And then obviously the Ravens in getting Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell's potential and what Justice Hill has grown into. I think both teams are better off in their respective situations. And I also think because we know J.K. Dobbins, I think that also takes a lot of pressure off. And I think that this defense will know what to do with him.
So I want to kick it to you, before we finish up, start wrapping it up, Yuri. This passing attack for the Chargers that we talked, that you're focused on this week. You mentioned their tackles, excellent. 2 first-round picks, rookie Joe Alt having a great rookie year. Their interior O-line more suited to pass block than they are to move people. What do you see from this Chargers offense as far as a lot of quick passes? Are they going to take their share of deep shots, intermediate? Like, how do you expect the Chargers passing game to attack the Ravens? What have you seen from them this year? Any combination of those thoughts, sir?
Well, if Roquan Smith's out, I mean, the obvious is that they're gonna work McConkey and Johnson over the middle. Like those two, I mean, those two have made a lot of their career out of is working that middle. So that wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if they got the run going and they get a little play action and hey, let's get McConkey and Johnson on the deep crossing routes and hit them on the sideline. And really break the Ravens cover 3 by taking one vertical, have the other one come across on a crossing route and hit him on the sideline. Wouldn't surprise me. There's a big matchup advantage I also see here is Matabike on Pipkins. I mean, Matabike, this should be another game where he just dominates. Even if Travis Jones is out and the double teams are coming his way, he should dominate, no doubt.
So come right back at you. If Roquan's out, how do we handle the linebacker position? I know you mentioned Stevens on passing situations, but what if they're going heavy and it's running downs? Do you trust Malik in there, or do you throw Chris Board in there?
I mean, they probably put Board in there. Malik, it was not a good showing from Malik last week at all. I would put Board on there just for the sake of experience at the position. Maybe they work Welch in there. Be nice to have John Ross on the P squad and call him up, but I think he's on Seattle now. So
yeah, tough overall. Should be a great game. So here we are, Ashley. Familiar place, the final thoughts segment of the show. Thank you for coming on, first of all, Ashley. And I'm going to send you the link every week. Remember, I told everybody last time you were on, if Ashley's not here, it's because she told me no, because I'm going to invite her every time. But Ashley did reach out. Got to catch up on a lot of stuff, Ashley, which was great. Great to hear all the exciting things, stressful things happening in your life down there in the Sunshine State. And got to tell you all my stuff happening up here with the puppy. But final thoughts on the game, Ashley. Let's get to it. This Monday Night Football game in L.A., how are you feeling? What are you thinking? You want to give a score prediction? We had Attitude Pop earlier in the show saying we're going to just crush them, bro. 41-17. Take the Ravens, give the points, take the over. Lamar Jackson with a reverse Jackson 5, 4 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. What say you, Miss Priyanka?
I like the Ravens to bounce back in this game. I'm pretty confident in that. It just depends on if they're pass heavy or run heavy. I might go with something around like 28-23 Ravens. I think they bounce back on offense. They look good. I would love a 41-17 game, but I just don't think that that's what the Har Bowl has in store for us. And I don't think John has it in him to show his brother's team no mercy like that. So I think 28-23 is going to be my prediction here.
So I think the last time they played, it was like really low scoring. Like not the Super Bowl, but the regular season.
Yeah.
I want to say the 2011 regular season game leading up in that, like this game is probably be 20-17, but for my hopes and prayers and for my delusion, I'm going to go with Ravens 36, Chargers 27. It's just, I think the game gets a little back and forth, trading touchdowns for that first half. And then in the second half, the Ravens get an interception and kind of take it away.
Break Herbert's streak, franchise record without giving up interception, franchise passing attempts without interception. We're going to get one. Who's going to get one, Yuri? Or you said 2? Go ahead.
No. It's due. I was saying, in terms of the player, I'll go. It's got to be Carl Hamilton. He needs one. He needs one for the stats.
You know what? I'll go Nate Wiggins if we get one. Ashley?
I'll go Marlon. I feel like that's the safe answer here.
Deep defensive player of the year, Marlon. He keeps racking them up. What's he got, 4 or 5 already?
5.
5. I would have never expected that. Props to Marlon. Props to Marlon for picking up his the ball skills aspect of his game, man. That's awesome to see. He's covering like a maniac. He's tackling like a maniac. Last week was the most emotional I've ever seen him. Always been a tough player. Like, actually, you can't take like the social media side and the goofy off-camera side and take that to the field, because that's not the way Marlon plays, bro. Like, he's a maniac on the field. There's a difference between his all that outgoingness to channels into like outgoing maniac on the field for Marlon. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's I for my own good, I need to just not follow him and not look at what he does online so I can appreciate what he does on the field for the Ravens.
Yeah, to me, it's pretty funny. And Marlon getting a thumb up for our guy John Parsons. John, appreciate your production in here. Look, wanted to thank everybody who's tuning in this week. I know it's a tough week. Guys, they're turning off Ravens, they're turning off ESPN, they're turning off NFL Network. They don't want to deal with it, but we thank you, hardcore fans. Huddle It Up Films here. Also mentioned Terrell Suggs, that 2011. His 2011 Defensive Player of the Year highlights are on the channel. He's up for Hall of Fame induction. And if you want to see some of the plays from that Thanksgiving game and that Harbowl, Terrell Suggs. I mean, guys, I think it's like a 13-minute video of highlights of just him dominating and kicking the living you know what out of everybody he played.
Joe
Some vintage Ray Lewis, Ray Lewis making plays, Ed Reed making plays. It's a really grainy tape, a smaller tape, but that's the way the tape looked back then. But if you haven't seen that, I just want to plug that because I went back and watched it because he's coming up for Hall of Fame inductions, posted it on Twitter, and I'll start my campaign for Terrell Suggs, first ballot Hall of Famer, and Marshall Yanda. That would be really nice. Hey, Ashley, do both get in first ballot? What do you think there?
Ooh, I don't know. Like I never know what to expect from. I if it were up to me, yes. I'll just leave it at that. If it were up to me, yes.
Come on, Yuri, take a stand, bro.
Both. They're both getting in there. There's no, you know what I mean? Like, Yonda's a very highly respected around the league type player. Suggs was a menace. I think they both get in. I think they both.
My guess, Suggs first ballot. Yanda has to wait another year or two. So that would be my guess. So with that, I want to say thank you to our football family. Love my football family. Check out the Trey White cut up. Check out the Terrell Suggs highlights. I appreciate everybody for sticking with me. With that, please, guys, say goodnight to the people.
Have a nice night.